Hey everybody, welcome back to another movie review. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late. Excuse me if I seem a little tired. Just runtime on this was pretty long. So me and my brother just got home and we're just getting some lunch in. So excuse me if I seem a little just out of it. I just haven't had lunch yet. Just wanted to document my thoughts before I forget all the little details of what I'm thinking right now. I like to do off the cuff type deals. So we're going to do that real quick as we discuss the film of which is pretty obvious when it comes to saying runtime. You can kind of grasp like, oh, this is the film that we're talking about, and by the title of this video. So the film that we're going to be discussing today is Avatar: Fire and Ash, which was co-written and directed by James Cameron, who you guys may know for films, of course, such as The Terminator, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Aliens, and of course the first two Avatar films. This is the third in the Avatar series, and this once again stars Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Sigourney Weaver, as well as forgot his name, Stephen Lang, I think that's his name. And as the story goes for this specific film, we follow from the Way of Water, where we are now integrated with the Aquatic clan, and we are coming out from those events where the Sully family, had lost a member of their family, and they're all grieving in their own particular ways. Some of which are more detached from the family, while others are still kind of integrated within the family, and others have this anger that is being festered within. And that jumps us off to introducing a new clan, which is the Ash clan, which are very much so about hatred and anger. They are festered. They are loyal to it, and with this new clan introduced, and as well as familiar foes coming into the picture, there is much of a need for unity to be salvaged and created to fight off the now more powerful threat that is uh, uh, that is threatening the existence of this world in Pandora. And the clans try to unite to try to fight off the familiar foes with the new foes simultaneously. So me and the Avatar films have had a very strict relationship in that I have never really have gotten the appeal of these films. I've always had my issues with these films. I felt that they always have lacked some attachments, fundamentally speaking, and a lot of what the interest, in my view, always has been is by aesthetic. And each of which of what I've seen from the films, from the first, the second to this, have always had that interest in mind. And I think that when it comes to my overall care in terms of narrative, it is rather thin because of partially to do with the mentality within that runtime and the runtime itself and how it just stretches and how much it just doesn't really enrich or invest as much as will down the simple nature of what is at stake, or the simplistic, narrative that it is, and just kind of stretching it out to its thin points. And in the case of Fire and Ash, a lot of those sentiments are still true, and I feel that I am still quite quite bored, especially at some points, especially when we get to what feels a lot of redundance in terms of relations to the other films. For example, I won't spoil it for anybody who is very much so about these films, just to be respectful about it. But in similarities to The Way of Water, there is a plot line revolving around the whales once again that I feel just does not go anywhere. And for a film this time around that is about, or at least in terms of the marketing point of this film, this being more in line about fire, the final battle just takes place in the water. Whereas this in the last film, it also did the same thing. And almost in some ways, how we get move about in that final stage feels similar to that of The Way of Water. Like there's a weird symbiotic link between the two films. It almost feels in some ways that you had to have watched that second film also to get involved with this. um, especially within certain details, of understanding certain characteristics or certain behaviors. Um, but the heft of the narrative as well, and supplying of details and supplying of just information, when it comes time to getting things to come full circle, it just feels either very daunting or just not as intriguing because of just what is literally being told to us, which is either too much or too little. Um, and I know it's the case of James Cameron, because he is very much intrigued about this world, and he's, pretty much has dedicated the last decade of his career to this series, and is potentially maybe going to be doing more in the future, depending on how this film financially does. But I just think that this series has just not had a like, if there's anything consistent about it, I think is the aesthetic. In this vein with Fire and Ash, that sentiment still is true as well. I still find myself intrigued visually. There are some, very, very strong imagery happening on screen, at least in terms of the details. Some of the faces and close-ups, and the surrounding, elements within that, it looks nice to look at. But when it comes to overall characters, when it comes to overall developments, when it comes to emotions, resonance, all those things, it just is lacking severely for me. And I really find myself, I think that between the three, oddly enough, I think that this would be my favorite because thematically speaking, there is something there to grasp, but then it ultimately loses its grip onto that. In this case, it is something to the extent about grief and how we deal with traumatic events, and the impending doom. How you deal with things in the face of great danger. Um, and I think that there is something to that at the start, but then it then decides to stretch itself out, and not to where it feels as if it has a grasp, and it feels as though that is being held together by certain ideas. It feels as though that we now are exploring other parts and getting away from what it was actually trying to be about in the first place. To when it all ends, it feels like as if nothing was truly explored, as much as just a lot of this happening. And if you get to the Fire Clan parts, that part kind of is true with all this weird, nonsensical type of dancing that takes place. Um, but it just is a lot and not a lot simultaneously. And then that you get something that doesn't really have a lot to say or have a lot to do. And as the audience member, not a whole lot to care about at the same time. So those are my thoughts on Avatar: Fire and Ash. I just don't really care. I think it's aesthetically, again, there's something there, but I just don't find myself intrigued by any of these characters. I don't find the world itself to be all that fascinating. I see the details in it, but just by my overall care of said details, it's very thin, and I just find myself bored. And the runtime, I feel, just the showcase of that vision, the allowance of that vision to flourish, I feel it just needs to be reined in and focus more on something rather than being about just the elements themselves. So, so I don't know if I don't know if I'll invest into another film in the future if there is one, because as it stands, I just fundamentally just don't care. But those are my thoughts on Fire and Ash. Now, I don't know if he'll be joining for a dual review. We'll see in a sec. But if he does, I will be cutting to him, and we'll be checking out his thoughts. Yeah, so. But those are my thoughts on Avatar: Fire and Ash, and we're going to be cutting now to my bro, and we're going to see what his thoughts are on the film right about now.
Hey everyone, it's me again. It's Rocky or Rocco, whatever you want to call me. It's been a while since I appeared on this channel, and I know this is a random for me to talk about, but I just wanted to say that I watched Avatar with my brother, and it was pretty long. It was super long. It was very long, and Yeah. Um, I didn't know what to talk about with the story. I kind of got confused with the story of what happened, but I can tell it's these movies look like it's just popular only because of like the visual effects, like the visual style. And don't get me wrong, I love it. I was in the theater and I was telling my brother, I was like, dude, this is pretty. Like I know Avatar was pretty, but this one was very pretty too. Like I love the visuals and everything. Like it looks very realistic, or it looks like it kind of just looks like a video game almost at first, but it was really beautiful. I loved it. I loved all the styles. I loved the way it was going. I like the cultural like things about like the Navi characters and all that, which is pretty nice. But story wise, I don't know what was going on. I got a headache after like 2 hours into it because when I watch a movie like more than 2 hours, then like I just start getting a headache because like 3 hours, like that's just a lot and stuff. And there was a lot of things in that movie I feel like they could shorten it down. Like there are some things that they extend for too long. I feel like the final battle there's not need to make like 30 minutes. Yeah, 30 minutes. 30 minutes or so, like 20 or 30 minutes. It was the whole final battle sequence was that long. I feel like they could have at least made it like maybe 10 minutes. Like I feel like there were some scenes that we don't need and they could have made it quicker and stuff like that. But that's mostly my complaints about it. But most of all, the movies, it's okay. I mean, it's all right. And in my opinion, I don't understand why it it gets like billions of dollars. Like I understand it looks really well made, but like $2 billion, like that's Avengers Endgame type box office. Like that you need to like have like the whole world like hyped up for this kind of thing. Like for Avengers, for example, like I said, like I understand why that made so much money because that was really good in my opinion. But for Avatar, it's like all I can see is just visual beauty, and I don't see a lot of big anything big. That's all I'm trying to say. But yeah, so anyway, that's it for me. I will see you guys for more movie reviews or anything that I'll spark my interest. Like I'll definitely talk maybe about the Super Mario Galaxy movie or for sure the Zelda movie that's coming up in like 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. So yeah. All right, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video, hopefully. So yeah. Bye bye.
Alrighty, guys, that's gonna be it for our review. This little guy wants to go and do his thing. So we're gonna head out now. But you guys, let us know your thoughts on the Avatar, Fire and Ash. Your guys' thoughts on the Way of Water. All your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. He's ready just to leave now. But yeah, let us know your thoughts, all things Avatar related, in the comment section below. And that's gonna be it for our review, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, we'll catch you guys next year with a whole bunch more reviews in the future. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.